XRP Ripple is about to go parabolic, and some recent developments have major investors piling in, ready to deploy loads of cash, because XRP is on the verge of a very large move. In the bull market of 2017, XRP pumped 1,080% in just under 4 weeks. At the cycle top of 2021, XRP pumped 715% over 14 weeks, and that was just off the tail of a nasty SEC lawsuit that made it very difficult for XRP to perform at all. So, what is a realistic price target for XRP in 2024 and beyond? And what's the news that has investors anticipating very large gains over the upcoming weeks and months? Also, if you've been wondering whether XRP is still a good investment to make right now, or maybe you've been holding onto your XRP for a little while and want to know exactly when XRP will reach its new all-time highs, then you'll want to stick around and find out through the rest of this video. Hello and welcome to the Bull Runners YouTube channel. My name is Paul Light, and as always, our content is purely for educational and entertainment purposes only. Past results don't guarantee any future profits. It's obvious that crypto is very risky, and so it requires solid risk management. It requires patience. It requires persistence. We are not going to guarantee you any results. We're not financial advisors, so obviously you've got to do your own research. You can lose money, and so if you're not willing to take responsibility for your own investments, don't buy any cryptocurrencies we mention on this channel. Matter of fact, we never recommend buying or selling anything. We just provide real-time updates, news, and our own opinions. And also just note that we potentially own some of the cryptos that we mention on this channel, but that's because we're obviously going to be very bullish on them. We talk about them because we like them. We want to be in them, and we want to share that with you, but not for the sake of you investing because we're investing. Okay, so ultimately, results aren't typical. Don't be typical. Stay bullish and stay tuned for the rest of this video. First, we're going to dive into one of the most important pieces of news that has come out this week, and something that is very bullish for not only XRP, but for the entire crypto world. Here we have a photo of the chief legal officer at Coinbase, and it states Coinbase sues the SEC and the FDIC for records on crypto trade policying. History Associates Inc., a consultant hired by Coinbase for the records request, brought one suit Thursday against the Securities and Exchange Commission for documents related to 3 crypto investigations. A second case against the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp, or FDIC, is seeking to force the banking regulator to turn over letters it purportedly sent to banks, asking them to pause crypto-related activities. So if you've been around in the crypto space for a while, and if you've obviously been invested in crypto or XRP for a while, then you would know, right? The SEC has consistently not played fair with XRP, with crypto, and neither has the FDIC, and we really don't know why. We can create our own assumptions around why. Maybe there are some powerful people in Washington or seats in banks that simply didn't want to see crypto win because ultimately it threatens the power that they currently have, and those power structures would involve fiat currency and money and some of their banking systems. And so if there is something that comes along that is typically a better financial technology, right, that can skirt a lot of those issues, well, then obviously they'd want to fight it. And so it doesn't seem that a lot of these regulatory bodies and agencies that are there to protect retail investors, the American public, as they so say, right, have been doing their job properly, which is why a company like Coinbase actually has to sue them to get the documentation for whether or not they brought their own opinions into cases, how they were speaking about crypto, whether there was any foul play, so on and so forth. And so this is going to bring and shed a lot of light into the thinking behind these agencies and the people that were running them. We'll continue. Coinbase requested the records with the goal of divining how the SEC views its newfound sweeping and unlawful authority over crypto, the lawsuit said. The SEC has denied requests because they may relate to pending investigations. They always do that, right? The exchange also wants letters to the FDIC's office of Inspector General said were sent in 2022 and 2023 to certain financial institutions, asking them to pause crypto-related activities. So imagine, right, you're doing everything above the books. You don't have any regulatory clarity. You're in business, right? You're not doing anything illegal. You're actually operating in the United States. And then, right, after doing all of the right things with the technology, these guys are still like, yeah, we're just going to shut down any business you could potentially have with banks. And when there are no off ramps or on ramps, what happens is it literally just stalls everything and makes it dead out of water. Because how do people get paid and then ultimately buy crypto, right? We're getting paid in fiat currency, US dollars. And then typically that goes into our bank account. And so we can't on-ramp or off-ramp money into crypto. Well, then guess what? Crypto can't survive or thrive. So it's kind of like if I had a whole river and then what happens is I just build a dam. That's essentially what these these regulators were doing. Coinbase argues the letters are a part of the FDIC's efforts to cut off crypto firms from banking services. And then Grewal said on X, this is no way to regulate. We'll continue. And here we have the chief policy officer over at Coinbase making his statement.
Joining me now live from Washington in a Fox Business exclusive is the Coinbase chief policy officer, Faryar Shehzad. Faryar, what does the Ether ETF approval say to you about the SEC's up until now pretty intransigent stance on crypto?
Well, I think what it says is that in the end, even this SEC ultimately has to follow the rule of law. A court definitively ruled the conditions under which the SEC should consider these ETF applications, and they ultimately had to approve the Bitcoin one, and now they've had to do the same with Ethereum, and it's a gigantic step towards the acceptance of crypto assets as a mainstream financial asset, and that's couldn't be more exciting. It also clarifies an issue that the SEC had put into the air over the last few weeks, which is somehow arguing that Ethereum is a security, and now that issue's been put to bed. So we've had an important step towards regulatory clarity and an important step towards mainstreaming crypto, Ethereum in particular. We couldn't be more excited about that.
Yeah, and
so it's obvious that they weren't playing fair with XRP over 2020 and then up until now. It technically suppressed the price of XRP. While everything moved, XRP struggled to break out to new all-time highs. Ethereum broke out to new all-time highs. Bitcoin broke out to new all-time highs. What about XRP? Well, ultimately, with the legal clarity that we have now and the SEC starting to lose its tight grip in terms of regulation around the crypto industry, I think there may be a shot for an XRP ETF in the upcoming months and potentially year. Another reason that I believe that XRP is due for one of these things is because as of recently, the Supreme Court has curbed the SEC's enforcement powers. In other words, the SEC faces another blow, is now teetering on complete collapse of American trust and illegitimate in-house circus trials after this Supreme Court ruling. We're going to dive into the article. The Supreme Court on Thursday limited the ability of the Securities and Exchange Commission and other federal agencies to impose monetary penalties through special in-house tribunals. So when you think about a tribunal, or better yet, in-house tribunal, you usually think of military, right? The military has its own courts. In other words, if I committed a crime and I was in the U.S. Army, I would typically go to a U.S. Military court, and there they would decide in-house what to do with me in terms of punishment. Well, a lot of these regulators have had the same access to power, and in particular the SEC did after the 2008 great housing bubble or crash, if you will, the Great Recession, and so since then they've started abusing their power, and now they're starting to scale back, and now this ruling really kind of makes them just a total clown show. The 6-3 decision, which split the court along ideological lines, said the SEC's use of administrative proceedings to seek civil penalties violated the right to a jury trial. Let's see here, by legal conservatives and defense attorneys to weaken the SEC's power over Wall Street and other corners of the investment industry. The SEC has for years been able to sue defendants in either federal court or the agency's internal venue. So imagine you have the power to basically say, hey, you know what? We can sue you in federal court, which still sucks and it costs a lot of money and time. And usually just by that act alone, right? Not only do they typically lose a case to a regulator, but they usually get bled dry to the point where they don't have capital to continue to operate. I've seen this happen with so many different companies over the years. And so now they can just say, you know what? We'll take you to our own court and we'll decide. And that just sounds absolutely silly, yet they've had that power forever. And so this is a huge win for not only crypto, right? For just about anyone who's ever had to deal with these overarching just policies that really wreck industry and in business. A defendant facing a fraud suit has the right to be tried by a jury of his peers before a neutral adjudicator, Chief Justice Roberts wrote. In other words, these guys, right, before they even face a neutral party for the judgment, which typically would be the case in any trial, right, they would face the SEC in their own circus trial, basically. The article continues, now, the entire federal government is forced to play by the same litigation rules as everyone else in real courts before real judges, just as the founders intended, McCullough said. And McCullough was the lawyer of a guy who brought the suit to the Supreme Court. So another major win for crypto and another major win for anyone who's in the business of innovation and arguably just technology. So the SEC is starting to lose its grip, and it's not helped by the fact that it's an election year. If Trump wins and Gensler leaves, this will be a turning point for both Ripple and XRP. While the XRP status is still in doubt, lawyers believe that the SEC is under immense pressure to clear all crypto-related cases. So this might be the time that they will settle their score with Ripple in a low-profile settlement. And so in all cases right now, it really just comes down to this settlement, right? Is it going to be 100 million? Is it going to be 10 million? Well, realistically, it's probably going to be somewhere on the lower side or in the middle, because that's how settlements typically go. And across the board, now that Ethereum is going to get its ETF, and the fact that obviously, you know, the SEC preferred Ethereum and made statements about it, and private communications is really going to work in favor of just about every other crypto who can now bring a suit because Coinbase and Ripple have led the way. It's going to open doors, right, to ETFs that we didn't think would happen this year. And then regulatory clarity, right? Other companies are going to be able to register and enter and do business legally, and arguably the biggest financial space in the world, and that would be the United States of America. Which brings me to my final point of news on Ripple and why people should think bullishly about it. Ripple's president, Monica Long, said the company's plans to launch a US dollar stablecoin, RLUSD, and also discussed the potential of an XRP ETF. Long explained that the decision to introduce a stablecoin is driven by the needs of Ripple's existing payment clients and banks. And so when you think about stable coins, typically you have USDC and USDT, and USDC, it really has lost market share to USDT. So typically in the world of stable coins, in the world of technology, right, you want to bet on the biggest 500-pound gorilla in the room, and that would be USDT. Unless, of course, right, there is a real need and demand by existing payment clients and banks. So it's not like XRP is trying to compete with USDT, if it's even possible in terms of them developing a new stablecoin. It really comes down to the fact that they have a real customer who needs a real problem solved. And just the news alone, right, of monies moving through their own stablecoin could be a potential catalyst that will really make the price of Ripple XRP fly. The strategic shift as the team has identified new opportunities for Ripple to be a holistic enterprise blockchain infrastructure provider. This includes enabling financial institutions to engage in activities like real-world asset tokenization and providing end-to-end infrastructure for various financial services. So it looks like they're really leaning into what they currently have. It looks like now that this lawsuit is almost behind them, they're going to be able to do things they were never able to do before. It looks like they're going to be able to provide real infrastructure and use cases for a new stablecoin offering into the future, and all of these catalysts into the end of the year with a new bull run could just spell new all-time highs for XRP. Finally, okay, she goes on to state, long stressed upon the impact of legal clarification of XRP status, and noted that with the clarified legal status of XRP as a non-security, its sustained high trading volumes, and the prospect of launching an ETF, it appears logical. And so XRP is obviously one of the biggest cryptocurrencies in the world by market cap. It obviously has a heck of a lot of interest, and we'll dive into the charts here very shortly. But at this point in time, with the SEC really kind of with their back against the wall and just being hammered down over and over and over again, for the first time in history, really, typically these regulators always had the power, and now they're slowly losing it. And it could be argued it's because of the current administration and how terrible they were at managing things, right? How incompetent they were. It's gotten to the point where it really became a clown show over at the White House and now inside of their courts. And so now they're losing across the board, and it seems that these are major wins for the entire crypto world. So let's dive into the charts and really talk about what everyone wants to know. When will XRP reach new all-time highs? What will those prices be? And could it happen this year? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hop on over to the Bitcoin chart. Okay. And as you can see here, we've been ranging for basically since March, right? We're talking March 13th. Till present day. It's been about 107 days. And as we had made note of in prior videos and posts, it looked like we could potentially have the summer lull. In past bull markets, even in the summers, things tend to slow down quite a bit, right? Fund managers and institutional players take their breaks. They go on family vacations. They sell off assets so they don't have to worry about carrying any potential risk. And an environment where they could just hold on to higher yield, government bonds. Why not? If I could earn, 4 to 5% virtually risk-free holding on to U.S. debt and then earn that interest at the end of it, I'd rather do that and take my vacation than worry about any potential volatility that could take place while I'm out and about. So the summer lull is very real. It's probably here, and it might be here through the end of September into October. In a prior video, we talked about how usually the markets really start to cook and heat up by October if it's a bull market. And so far, it looks to be a bull market since November of 2022 and that bottom, right? In the start of January of 2023, we continued riding up. And then in January of 2024, right, we had the ETF news, which really moved us from a range of about 43,000 all the way to 73,000 for a $30,000 gain. Okay, and almost a 50% gain. It was like a 40% gain. So that being said, right, we consistently saw sell pressure up here at the $71,000 level, which would be the range to break. And then the range of support, okay, would be down here at the $60,000 level. And there is no one perfect exact way to measure this, right? Sometimes we have wicks that go down, other times we don't touch it, but generally speaking, this is the range. And here's what you would have had, we call a bear trap, right? People are bearish right here when a breakdown happens, only to see the market bounce from there and then move to the upper portion of this range. So typically, if I see these types of plays, I like to take them, especially when I get a confirmation or a bounce. That said, we just reached the lower end of the range for a period of like 2 weeks. We were just seeing nothing but sell pressure, and this was arguably a very easy range to trade when you really look at it closely, right? I mean, we're talking consistently weak bullish candles, one pretty fat bullish candle on that day where we saw the FOMC meeting, right, the interest rates, so on and so forth. and the inflation rate, the core CPI. We saw the markets really pump only to get sold back off with a bearish engulfing candle. Two very weak bullish candles or green candles, only to see another couple of very bearish red candles. And then finally the market broke down and we saw a pretty big volume day, right? Almost up to that third standard of deviation of volume, about $2 billion in volume on the index alone. But we did see support. And so although we failed to move higher and see what I would like to see, which would be a V-shaped recovery that looked more like this, we are failing to see lower lows as of now, which leads me to believe that the $60,000 range is a pretty strong range of support. And the fact that we took out a lot of these lows, this low, and this low, for a lower low right here, leads me to believe that there was a lot of capitulation. There was probably a lot of liquidations. And then the next day, because we're on the daily time frame, right, we failed to see any wicks to the downside. Then we saw an inside bearish candle, only to see a relatively positive green candle that is still inside. But now we're seeing for the fourth day in a row a weak red candle. So in about, I don't know, by tomorrow we'll know that if we see another weak candle and potential moves to the upside of $62,000+ again, then this thing is primed to move back up into the $67,000 range and then the $71,600 range, which remains to be seen. And so there's a couple of ways that I would like to approach it. Typically, I'd like to go to a lower time frame and just see what happens with the volume. And as you can see here, again, massive capitulation in a very weak coinciding green volume bar right here on June 24th. But there was a massive wick. And typically when you get this type of a volume bar, if the price starts to move or continues to move to the downside, that's a good indicator to stay out. But when I start to see the market move to the upside with low or weak buying volume, this might be an indicator that virtually all of the sellers, at least in this portion of the market, are out. And then when you start to see all of these bigger green candles or volume bars right here, chances are buyers are biting into this. They have more confidence to move into the market. So this right here from a 4-hour time frame looks very bullish. And then finally, when I pull up like an EMA, right, which I'm going to use the 10 and 20 EMA, this orange one would be the 20 moving average, and then the blue line would be the 10 moving average. You've seen that we've typically consistently sold off right at these ranges. And so what I would like to see is for, first and foremost, a crossover on the 10 and 20, and then price to break above and then start putting in, a new trend. Because right now we're still trending down. So it is very much possible that we actually continue to break down, but I am liking this confluence of volume confirming that there are buyers in this range, the fact that we had a very weak bar right here, a volume bar on this low, this recent low, without any further selling or major red volume bars, tells me that again we're probably at our current low. So the final thing that I would like to see in order to say that yes, we're at least at a local bottom, right, would be for the price to start painting a new trend. In other words, a series of higher highs and higher lows, because right now we're just seeing resistance at the $62,000 level, and right now we're seeing support at the $60,000 level. A very easy little small range to trade if you're talking again smaller time frames, but I'm trying to talk about what might potentially happen in the future. I'd like to see a crossover. I'd like to see the 10 EMA cross over this 20 EMA, which it hasn't since basically the trend started dropping from that $71,000 level. And then finally, I'd like for the price to start putting in a newer high above 62,000, one, and then two, to potentially bounce off that 10 or 20 EMA and then continue in its trend. And if I do see this, it's highly likely that we're going to go right back up to this $67,000 level, which would be our next major resistance range. And so when I pull up that VRVP right here, you can see that there was a boatload of volume traded there. So it's highly likely that we're going to, run into a bit of headwinds. But when you're in a range like this for 3 months and, typically the summer lulls, it's more likely we're just going to continue to get more ranging through the next month, which leads me to believe that it's very much possible for XRP. Now, the good news with XRP is that it's been dumping a heck of a lot less than Bitcoin. And I think this is indicative of a few different factors. One, it probably just has stronger holders and less institutional players as of right now, at least trading it from a futures standpoint, from a speculative standpoint, which is really healthy for it, actually, from the perspective of it has a real base of a community and strong and loyal supporters. The second thing I think that is happening right now is the fact that the majority of people who are gonna sell it already sold. And so when there are very few sellers, right, but strong holders, the price typically stays flat or doesn't really do anything that much, which, isn't really fun to sit through, but it also means that you have something that is typically more stable and a little bit less volatile. So if I were to pull up the XRP chart, and I'll just turn this VRVP off and I'll turn that off, we're gonna look at this is the price of Bitcoin, right? And here we have our high for the range right up here at $71,000. And in that same time frame, I'll try to get it lined up pretty well, right? In the same time frame, let's see how much XRP is down, right? XRP is basically only down 4.28%, while Bitcoin is down 11.47%. So this is actually pretty strong and bullish. And even in the range right here where Bitcoin really saw a lot of capitulation, XRP saw a double bottom right here, right? Whereas Bitcoin actually dumped further, which leads me to believe there was more leverage in Bitcoin than there was in XRP. And again, that they have typically stronger holders. So both very positive signs for XRP. Let's hop on over to the XRP chart. So where could XRP potentially rise to, and when will this happen? Well, if Bitcoin and the general crypto market start to look really good, and I would argue that would typically be nearer to the end of the summer or maybe even into October, then XRP has a real fighting chance. As things stand, right, we are currently sitting at a support of about 46 cents. And so I'll go ahead and toss a line on there. And as you can see here, over the last, since July of 2023, so basically June to July, we've saw nothing but support there. We saw a massive breakdown and a move right here on actually very weak volume, but that could have been due to, liquidations and futures, only to see it supported here at the 46 cent range. So once, twice, 3 times, and a few times back here, 4 times, 5, 6, and so now we're getting to the end of this road where volatility has really just stopped being a factor with XRP, and it's just been dragging along since April of this year in similar fashion to Bitcoin, but in a far tighter range. And again, probably due to a lot of strong holders and less leverage. Volume at this point is nearly non-existent on all charts, whether I'm on Bitstamp, which has all of the price history, or Binance, right? We're well below average. So if we start to get a change in the trend, and arguably that would be if we can break above this 52 cent range, our next major range would be 55. If we can break above that 55 cent range, then I think we're scotch-free all the way up to the 74 to 75 cent range. And typically that would require a bit of excitement in the markets, some level of institutional support or adoption, some major players stepping in, some sort of a catalyst that gets a boatload of retail investors involved. Whatever the case may be, it could be an XRP ETF, and I would argue anything along those lines alongside real stablecoin adoption with their institutional partnerships could cause the price of XRP, especially this market cycle with real regulatory clarity, to pump into the previous all-time high and then new all-time highs. So I started looking at the chart as of recently, and I started seeing something that is pretty interesting, if you ask me. And the first thing I noticed, and we'll just go ahead and toss that line off of there, is that from the previous or the very first all-time high back in 2013, okay, to its new all-time high right over here in May of 2017 for its largest percentage-based move ever, okay, we saw a period of, and I'll go ahead and put it on a weekly time frame to really make this easier. We saw a weekly period of 179 bars, okay, or for a total of 1,260 days. Then, even with the lawsuit, okay, XRP pumped, it just failed to break out to new all-time highs, and it was probably just because a lot of people were avoiding and investing in it, right? But at that point in time, it required about 171 bars or 171 weeks for 1,197 days from its previous all-time high in January of 2018, okay, over to its all-time high for the bull market of 2021. So what can this tell us about what's potential in this new bull market? Well, first and foremost, we've seen nothing but serious support at the 30-cent level all the way up to the 66-cent level. So I would argue that is our next major box that we've been trading in, okay, right around here. And so if we break above this range, right, in a real bull market environment with real positive news and some really strong catalysts, again, we're looking at 171 bars here, 179 bars here. Here's what's super interesting. When I take the previous all-time high and grab the time frame tool to present day, we're already at 167 bars. So how long will it take? Will it take the 179? Will it be 175? Heck, even if it was 190, that would bring us into December of 2024. And with the serious, lag on XRP, it doesn't really bother me much, because if you've looked at previous charts and compared it relative to the crypto market, the Bitcoin market, XRP typically moves within about a couple weeks to a month of Bitcoin and lags. That means that XRP can range for a few weeks as Bitcoin hits its all-time high, and then in a single couple of weeks it'll just start to skyrocket, and when it moves, it cooks. So it is very much possible that it could take up till December, but that would reasonably mean that Bitcoin is probably reaching its all-time high. So these things never are perfect, but they are secular, so they move in cycles. I would predict that sometime in September to October of 2024, we'll start to see XRP cooking into the 75-cent range to $1 range. And then when Bitcoin hits its all-time high, that's when you know that XRP is probably likely to reach a new all-time high, if it doesn't by that point already. So this is actually very helpful for us to look at. I also like the fact that we're really contracting on volume, which means unless we're going to drop, and right now we have an uptrend, right? Not only short term, but long term. And arguably short term, we're not really trending. We're kind of just ranging, but we're seeing a lot of strong support. So that leads me to believe if it's not going to go away, and I doubt it will. Why? Because it's ranked number 7 in terms of total market cap. So this speaks volumes to the amount of adoption and investors that are in it. And that would be mostly retail investors at this current point in time, with a market cap of 26 billion. In its previous bull run, right? When you look at the market cap of all time, right, we hit a market cap of about 117 billion. Currently, we're sitting about 27 billion. So this thing has a lot of room to grow and could see some serious gains. Now, where could it pump up to? Well, again, that first target for me would be its previous all-time high right here at the $3 level. Okay, so it's like, and I'm looking at a very long-term chart here, but about 330 was our previous all-time high. So if we reach that range, remains to be seen what happens with XRP. But we saw so much support right here, and if you pull up that VRVP, I mean, it's just endless amounts of support and trade volume at the 45-cent level all the way down to the 19-cent level. So in my opinion, it's virtually impossible, unless the entire crypto market collapses, for XRP probably to get back to that 18-cent level. In other words, if XRP continues to trend down because the market starts to trend down, I think it would be a good dollar cost average opportunity all the way through that 30-cent range up to 38 cents. So at any point in time, if you're like, I don't know if I should be investing, well, realistically understand that if the market continues to remain weak through the summer and we don't get Bitcoin pumping into those ranges of $67,000, then XRP could see a little bit of sell pressure and people could capitulate, which gives you a better opportunity to stack and accumulate more through the 38-cent range to the 30-cent range before it makes its move up. But I highly doubt now, with this regulatory, with regulatory clarity and a potential XRP ETF on the way, that XRP could dump to 19 cents. sense. Again, unless of course the entire market collapses because of some black swan event. Any of those types of things are possible. And in a black swan event, it's best to typically deploy all of your capital. Now, that is not financial advice. That's just from my own personal experience. That is when I made the most money in all situations and environments when it comes to markets. So I don't think this thing's going away. So it leads me to believe that in a true bull market with real support now, and more clarity, and no crap bullshit, excuse my language, lawsuits, that this thing could at least hit 330. In terms of its new all-time highs, what I would like to do is I'll take a fib tool from that previous first all-time high to the low right here, and I'll try to touch the most points possible. So there, and we'll just see where it first pumped to. I'll turn that VRVP off. I'll take that line and pull it away. And you can see here that we hit the 2.27 range, but I don't think that's realistic this time around unless XRP really sees some insane catalysts. I think at least, the 1272 and the 1618 range would be far more realistic. And so what I would do is do the exact same thing with this previous all-time high and take it and toss it on a low right here where I touch the most points. Again, I'm trying to hit as many points as I possibly can, and obviously I'm kind of ignoring the very far low at 11 cents, and that was because it was coronavirus, the pandemic. This black swan event really threw things out of whack, and so I'm hitting this point right here on December 16th. I'm hitting its next point here on June 29th of 2020, and then the final time right before the lawsuit in on December 28th. So generally, this is actually what I would consider the local bottom right here, and I'm just going to drag that as far over to the right as I possibly can. And so we can see that that next major range, right, would be about the 1.272, 7.5. Okay, I'll put a line there. Our next major range would be right here at the $21 level. Oops, let's go ahead and delete that. And I think $21 is pretty lofty. Not that it couldn't do that, but we need to see some serious inflows. And it arguably would require a lot of time. I mean, ultimately, that would be from present day a 4,200% gain. And that didn't even happen right here in July to January. I think it might have happened back here. We'll find out, right? About a 40%, 4,600% gain from the breakout right here to 5,300%. But this is, early stage, very low, amount of circulation. Didn't need a lot of liquidity to move big. And now that it has, more tokens in circulation at this stage in time, and arguably more traders, right, and speculators, it's going to be a little bit harder for it to make those types of percentage gains. But I think in a realistic environment, it could easily hit its previous all-time high for a one-to-one move for 580%, which would be very realistic considering we saw 700% here, 1,000% here, and that would still be a pretty massive gain, right? And then upwards of 750, you'd see about a 1,400% gain. So it is very possible, very realistic for it to hit those ranges in a true bull market fashion, but that remains to be seen. Either way, I think it's looking really good from a support range here. And I think a lot of capitulation has already happened, unless, again, of course, everything continues to dump through the summer and we see some sort of a black swan event. But as things stand, I think it's a good time to continue to accumulate, and we're getting very close to that stage where it could potentially pop off. So that being said, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and click the subscribe button, smash the like button. Let us know what you think about XRP and the crypto markets in general down in the comments. And as always, if you want to learn how to do technical analysis like this, go ahead and go to bullrunners.com. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video, my friend. Stay bullish.